Yo, what's up, Praz?
What's up, Drammy? How we doing?
Doing great, man. Ready at, opening week of baseball and at Wrigley Field. What could be better? It's weather is not cooperating and we're getting some rain, possibly some snow tomorrow, but Chicago, so
Listen,
be
you know what?
expected.
Exactly. It's Chicago. We're used to it. Honestly, I've kind of come to embrace it on opening day and the Cubs home opener when, to have a little bit of cloudiness, there were some reports going into this week that it might rain on yesterday, and hopefully luckily we were able to avoid all that, at least to get 5 innings in, get through the game and everything like that. It's weird because I think on the south side they did have somewhat of a delay
Yeah,
with them and the
two.
Braves. Two of them, okay.
I think they had two
Uh,
delays.
Tony, to answer your question, no, I am not sober. I never was sober at any point since we got to Wrigleyville yesterday, and I'm continuing not being sober. Drinking some Bell's Over on Eclipse here today. Hello, Dougie. How you doing? So yeah, I very much indulged yesterday while I was in Wrigleyville with my guy Tony. Got to meet up with some family members too over at Old Crow. So it was a fun time all around. Great to be back at Wrigley. Great to be back in the bleachers for sure.
Yeah, I mean, opening week, one of my favorite times of the entire year. So I'm stoked. I mean, you and I were texting over the course of a few days, and we joked about it on the last show, right? You're the optimist. I'm a little bit more of, I like to say realist, but you know, fans and people can say pessimist, whatever. You can say what
Right.
you want. I tend to be more realistic, I think, about this team. So we were kind of texting each other a little bit. For everyone who's listening, Praz walked me off the ledge pretty much after day one, um, which we're going to talk about why. And I think every Cup fan knows why I was already ready to walk off the ledge after about what 4 2/3 of an inning, I think it was.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm super pumped. I mean, you and I talked about, potentially going on Friday, which would be a lot of fun.
for sure.
We got to definitely get some games in this year, and like I said, it's so crazy with this weather. I mean, I remember we talked about it last show. There was one year that I was supposed to go see opening day. Ted Lilly was pitching, was supposed to be on the mound, and it was like 4 to 6 inches of snow. Like the game got snowed
Yep.
out, like not rained out, it got snowed out. So, um, I guess par for the course when you live in Chicago. But I can't wait. Again, it's a new year. Baseball's back. So yeah, let's talk some baseball. Where where do you want to start? Because I know, like I said, you're a little bit more of the optimist compared to me.
Well, I mean, things were looking pretty well for the first few innings in Texas and in game one. Cubs get out to an early lead on a Dansby Swanson sac fly. But yeah, we get to the fifth inning. Justin Steele going after a ground ball makes the play, but winds up tearing his, or not tearing, but well, I guess a strain is a technically kind of a tear of his hamstring. And if there's one guy the Cubs couldn't afford to lose early in the season, it's probably him. You pretty much right immediately had texted me, see you in 2025.
Yep.
I I wasn't as pessimistic yet at that point. Like I don't think we knew the full details of how severe the injury was.
Yeah.
And it is pretty significant. He's gonna miss more than likely the full month. But they for the most part were able to persevere. Had a big hit from later in the game from Morel, had a crazy play where they took the lead in the ninth on what looked to be a foul ball with Miles Masterboni batting, but Michael Bush making a heads up play, breaking for the plate, and then ninth inning they wind up giving it right back. Adbert Alzolay, first hiccup of the season. Shut up, Shane. Get out of here. Um, yeah. Yeah. Look, the thing is, the reason why I'm as optimistic as I am is like I didn't see things like Adbert Alzolay blowing it on opening day happening. Like I thought after the season he had last year that he is going to be a solidified closer. And I think for the most part, he still will settle into it because he did come in, granted in a non-save situation on Sunday, and close the door down then. But little shaky to start the year there. Cubs tease us in the 10th. Morel hitting what looked to be a grand slam off the bat there, but wound up going about 5 feet foul. And then the next inning, Cubs load the bases, or the Rangers load the bases, excuse me. And they lose it on a walk-off. Saturday's game, really ugly. Really, really ugly.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm stepping over if you want to get into anything on this, but
yeah, I mean, so first of all, I'm going to tell you what I'm drinking because I'm about to drink a lot of it as we continue this night. As we talk through like my side of like what I felt opening day, right? So I'm actually going with a little bit of Beautiful and the Damned. They're from Chicago, so if anybody
nice.
has tried them or not, definitely would recommend. And also, owner and founder is a Cubs fan, so if you're a Cubs fan, go support your fellow Cub fans, right?
Absolutely.
So for me, the Justin Steele thing, I texted you right away and I was like, see you in 2025. And I had the same sentiment, right? Like that is the one guy that they could not afford to lose. They didn't do enough in the offseason. And I think we said in the previous episode where they didn't, in my opinion, didn't do enough. This is essentially the same team as last year. And I don't think that they really created the depth that we were kind of hoping for from like a starting rotation side. And when Tyon went down in spring training, that was already like a red flag to say, well, we're going into the season with Javier Assad and I'm sorry, forgive me, Wicks on the back end, right? And that's
right.
not a rotation that you really want to kind of start your year on with having those two in the back end of your rotation, and then we kind of, before I move on to the next game, we saw Justin Steele was looking like Justin Steele. Like we thought he was going to take this big jump. He was a Cy Young contender at the end of last year before he ran out of gas. I think he's up there as one of the favorites for Cy Young this year, if I'm not mistaken, when we look at the odds too, right?
He was like top 10, about like plus 2,000, which is about where you'd peg him to be. So yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I was ready to place a bet before the first game. And as soon as I saw the first game go into the fourth inning, I was like, okay, I need to go back and place a bet on this because he was looking damn good. But then obviously the injury happened, which is such a bummer. And, you and I were kind of texting back and forth how bad it could be. It looked like he was mouthing something. Some fans, were tweeting out like, it looks like he said, oh, it just grabbed. Some people said, it looked like he said it just snapped. There was so many different reports. Like, you sent me one where it said like they thought it was kind of minor. And then there was another tweet that Craig Counsell said he's going to be out the month of April. I told you that I think it's going to be longer than that. Hamstrings are tricky. For Cubs fans, you recall, Wilson Contreras was a player who faced several hamstring issues, I believe, in his tenure with the Cubs. And it took a while. So, I was obviously concerned with that. With Alzolay, I don't know if I'm ready to throw the towel in on Alzolay just yet. It was one, like you said, you thought he took a major step last year. I was excited for this year for him. But my point was that they didn't build enough flamethrowers in that bullpen, specifically in the back end of that bullpen. And when you're facing a team like Texas, who has just a really gaudy offense, like from
they
top
truly
to bottom.
do. I mean, Evan Carter was hitting 8th in that lineup when he is one of the favorites to win AL Rookie of the Year. So, yeah.
Right. And when you're facing lineups like that, you need flamethrowers. You need guys that are not going to let the ball even just be put into play. You need strikeout guys. And they didn't have that. And you saw it, right? You saw it with Alzolay giving up a home run. Right. So there was definitely some concerns there. Then we talked about the second game, obviously, and as much as I love Kyle Hendricks and as much as I love the whole nostalgia of 2016 and the year he had then, and how excited I was that they re-signed him, that is not your number 2 starter. And you and I talked about why, and you made a lot of sense, and I'll let you kind of talk through that. But in the same breath, it also just shows you don't even have a number 3 because you're basically, in my opinion, this rotation is Justin Steele and a bunch of 3 to 5 starters. There's no true number. Actually, I'm 4 to 5 starters. There's no true number 2 or 3 yet. Now, I said this before yesterday's game, and we saw
Right.
what Shota did. And again, it's still to be seen. He looked really great in the first start. You know, hitters will adjust. He also
Right.
had the wind blowing in on him, where he gave up a few fly balls that he's notorious for letting the ball leave the ballpark. So, yeah, I mean, I'll let you kind of take over your thoughts on the whole Hendricks thing too.
Yeah, Hendricks, he worked around a lot of trouble. There was no like 1-2-3 inning he had against the Rangers. Performance was cut short. I'm freaking dying laughing at this comment by Sammy Davis right now. I if you want to post it, go ahead, but thank you to him for letting me park at his parents' place, but that did not happen. Thank you. No, look, I'm on the same boat as you. I love Kyle Hendricks. He had long been my favorite Cub, last remaining 2016 Cub. It's getting to the point where, he should not have been a guy slotted in that sort of position. And again, we talked about it. I think going later in the season, probably when Justin Steele gets back, they will factor in a way to have, they'll probably factor it in where Justin Steele is the guy starting ahead of Shota Imanaga.
Yeah.
They did it to line up Shota to face an easier opponent in a much more pitcher-friendly environment when they get back here. That being said, you are right that they should have had a better option to face Texas. I fear for what's going to happen with him when he faces the Dodgers this weekend too.
Yeah.
Because and the messed up thing is he is a guy that I would have thought would have thrived with the new rules because he always had been a guy that would work quickly and, may not be the fastest thrower, but work quickly, fielded his position well and everything like that. Who knows? It's one start.
Yeah.
I hope that I'm wrong about this with Kyle Hendricks, but going forward, that's probably the guy that you want taking the ball the least of any pitcher in the rotation.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm ready to go as far to say that. I just think that, Kyle Hendricks, if he was your number 4 or 5 starter, I think you can live with that. And that would feel like that was a strong rotation. If that's your 4 or 5 starter, I would have felt really good about the rotation coming into this year. It kind of felt very similar to that year where I think what was it, 2004, when they re-added Greg Maddux to the Cubs. Right. And he was their number 5 starter. And then you felt really good about that because even though you knew he was an aging starter, just like Kyle Hendricks, he was the back end guy that was going to eat up some innings. He was going to have some really strong games. He was going to have some duds, but you knew he was going to have some strong games, right? And I feel like you knew that rotation was Mark Pryor, Kerry Wood, Matt Clement, Carlos Zambrano. And then you had whatever Maddox gave you was just icing on the cake, right? So, I was really, I don't want to say this go as far to say disturbed, but I was definitely not feeling great about Kyle Hendricks starting game 2 of the season. And again, we know Texas is a great lineup, right? But that's what you were texting me is like, hey, we're also facing the defending champs. But my argument to that is, so what? Like, so what if we're facing the defending champs? Like, you're the Chicago. I've said it many times on many shows. You are the Chicago Cubs. You are one of the biggest market teams ever. Why are we not that team? Why are we not that team that other teams fear, like the Atlanta Braves, or like facing the Phillies lineup, or facing the Dodgers? Like, why aren't we that team, right? And I know they're banking on this like farm system to like produce, but it's a bunch of what ifs. It's still a bunch of what ifs.
Well, here's the thing that oh my God, all this butthole talk, get out of here. Look, you don't, ideally, yes, it would have been nice to go and get Jordan Montgomery or Blake Snell while they were still out there to be had at what is looking like really good deals that the Diamondbacks and the Giants both got now for only 1 year for each of those guys.
100%.
Yeah. and I don't know that either of them would necessarily be ready to have started for game 2. I guess for me, the thing is, like, if they are going to rely so heavily on the 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 minor league system carrying them, like, why? If that's the case, you shouldn't be worrying about, like, service time manipulation or any other reason. Like, you should have Cade Horton up here right now, in my opinion. You should have like Ben Brown. I know he's not a starter. I thought he might have been, and because he was called up in place
Yeah.
of
He
Justin
still might
Steele.
be.
Might
He still
still,
might be.
yeah, it still might be, but got banged around game 2 of this series, which I gotta say, as much as excited as I am to have Craig Counsell as our manager, I wasn't really all that happy to see him throw Ben Brown in for his major league debut in a game where they were already getting lit up like they were. But hey, it's one game. I'm Ben Brown will bounce back from it. Yeah, I mean, you're right. They should be treating this much differently than they have been. Luckily, they don't. I do think that being down there in Texas at that time with a very hyped up Rangers crowd with all the excitement of the banner and the rings and everything like that it was an
Yeah.
environment that the Cubs could have had. They could have had Garrett Cole starting for them, and they maybe would have lost that game.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I get that, and I think, you kind of talked about it. You wanted to say, like, well, Alzolay gave up that game in game 1, and that's, we technically could have won that game, right? But that's also, if you remember, that's a game we probably had no business winning anyways, because they got a free run based on that missed foul
Correct.
tip that,
Yeah.
the head umpire completely missed. It was clear that it was a foul tip. They called it a pass ball. Cubs scored on it. So to me, that was kind of like a ball don't lie kind of situation where we just saw like it evened itself out in that way. Like,
I think even Jeff Passan tweeted that, like, exactly. He said ball don't lie when that home run
ball
was hit
don't
the next
lie.
inning. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, like, I wouldn't even chalk that up as an almost win either, because you could go both ways with that game. Game 2 obviously was a clear loss. They got whooped.
Right.
And even if you look at game 3 of that series, it was great to see them in the later innings kind of tack on some runs and stuff. But there was also some like sloppy defense and just miscues from the
Oh, yeah.
Rangers that really kind of cost them, that game really. So yeah, I'm sure Rangers Twitter account was, in agreement with that. But you know what I mean? So it's like you really could make an argument that either of those games outside of game 2, that they could have won or lost, right? So I think it ended up balancing out either way. But and again, it's the Rangers. I get it. You're going up against the defending champs. They're hyped. I get all that too. But I mean, if you recall, like, I mean, when was it? What did we say the last back-to-back champion was? I can't even remember who the last back-to-back was. It the Yankees?
Has to be like Yankees 98,
Yeah,
99, I would
I thought it was
think.
99 2000, but I can't remember.
Or 99 2000. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been 20 something years since we saw back-to-back, because we know how hard it is, especially in baseball, to repeat. So
For
like,
sure.
and again, it's the first series. I'm going to keep saying that. I know it's the first series. I shouldn't, completely freak out yet. But I think like some of the things I saw in this series were the things that were already concerns to me heading into this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other side of that was I saw more concerns creep into what can happen this year, right? And I know we'll talk about it later, but this team was built on pitching and defense. Pitching wasn't super strong to start out the year, and I already had my concerns about the rotation, like I said, because you're basically swapping Imanaga, from Stroman, and that was really the trade-off there. Bullpen slightly better, maybe. I mean, you added one big arm, really, and the other two are kind of unknown, with Quaz having a full year and Almonte just, again, you don't know if he's going to have a good year or not, but
because he's been an every other year type of guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But the defense did not look great to start, and we knew that there was going to be some growing pains with Michael Busch and Christopher Morel, like playing first and third respectively for the first time full time in their careers. But man, that for a team that's built on defense, like, you don't have a lot of room for error, in my opinion. And I think I texted you that, it's like you just don't have a lot of room for error.
You don't. But at the same time, this is a team that doesn't really make many errors. I mean, we will get into how bad Christopher Morel has looked defensively at third base. But as far as the rest of the team goes, I mean, I think a big concern for us so far this year has been going into this year was Michael Busch at first base. He has not looked out of place there. He's, been able to pick it pretty well over there.
He had a couple plays where I thought he probably should have made the play, and I think experience will help him make those plays in the future. But right now, I think it's just, like I said, you're going into the season with your corner infielders both basically learning this position for well, maybe not learning, but getting used to the position and playing full time at those spots, right?
Well, definitely their first time of playing there every day. Yeah,
correct. Right.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be a learning experience. But again, defense, I think overall will be a strength for this team. You have Gold Gloves all over the field. You have two with Ian Happ. Cody Bellinger in center has a couple. Dansby and Nico is arguably the best defensive middle infield in baseball. It's going to pain me to say this because I really don't want this guy on the team, but I think going forward, if you're going to have Christopher Morel starting at third base every day, the best way to go about it is do what they did yesterday and have him play there for the first 6 innings. If you build up a decent enough lead, get him out of there, put Nicky 2 strikes in there for defense because it's the one thing he's good at.
Goodish.
Yeah, having to take a running start for all his throws to first base.
Yeah, he's like 5'4".
Yeah.
Did you see him? Because I know you were at the game yesterday, but I wish I would have gotten a screenshot of it. It was just super funny because I think it was the way that they lined up by I don't know if it was numerical order when they lined up the players, but he was standing next to Luke Little, who is like the largest man on that team.
Yeah.
And he is like the smallest. He looked like a kid. He looked like a little kid standing next to him.
It was like that picture of like Aaron Judge and Jose Altuve standing next to each other.
Oh yeah,
base a few years ago.
It looked like he was asking for his autograph. Like,
speaking of which, I think we need to nickname Luke Little Tiny now, just because that old joke about how guys named Tiny but they're huge. Yeah.
What's his name? Like the guy who played Debo. I think his name is Tiny. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hilarious. All right. Well, let's get into the good because I know you were at the game yesterday, and we saw just a great performance from Shota Imanaga in his first game, not only in the major leagues but opening day, Wrigley Field, crowd amped up. You told me right away, you're like, I feel like this dude's going to be amped. I feel like the moment is not too big for him. Like he's going to be ready. And man, was he ready? He had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning, wasn't it?
Yep. No-hitter going into the 6th inning. I wasn't sure for a while if that ball that got ruled as an error by Christopher Morel that Chris Bryant hit was going to count as a hit or not. I wound up not even realizing it until maybe 2 or 3 innings later that it wasn't considered a hit. So yeah, no hitter through 6. As if he couldn't endear himself enough to Chicago with saying, saying the lyrics to Go Cubs Go in his opening press conference.
Hey, then
and then he takes the mound and his opening music is Chelsea Dagger, the Hawks goal song. This guy is turning into the most Chicago guy ever. I love Shota already. This is awesome.
Well, he should be. He was living here from Christmas till he signed in late January.
Really? Okay.
He was, so I don't know if you saw this, but when he signed with the Cubs, he was already living in Chicago for a month because he loved the city. He didn't want to leave. I think he really wanted to be here, and they signed him. So I think he was ready. He was just waiting for the contract at that point. But I know he was here, I believe at least a month.
Okay.
So, I mean, yeah,
he did talk about it in his post-game press conference saying he went to a Hawks game and loved it. So yeah, that's where he got that idea from.
And he got to see our fan base even when our teams suck. Right.
So,
I mean, that's it. I think that's a good sign, for any athlete, right? When they come to the city and they see how passionate we are, how much we care, how much we love our teams. But I just love the swagger. I mean, I think after he got out of that 6th inning, he had given up a couple singles to break up the no-hitter.
Right.
And he already had a couple outs. They strung together a couple hits, but when he got that last out of the inning, he was jacked up. He was pumping his fists. Like, it's like, bro, like, I mean, I know he's not like technically a rookie, but he's a rookie, right? He's a rookie in Major League.
He's definitely new to here. Yeah, exactly.
Right. But man, I loved the attitude, the swag. I mean, he was an excitable guy and not a very big guy, not a really big imposing guy at all. But
I will say one little bit of a concern I had with him is like, okay, he had the 9 strikeouts. Some of the outs he gave up off the bat were pretty deep fly balls to the outfield that on days when there's better weather at Wrigley may have gone out, and, you know, maybe against a better opponent as well. I feel like, though, in a way, he's almost, I've heard, you know, Barry Rosner, the old Cubs writer for Daily Herald, he's talked about Maddox in this way, where there would be times when Maddox was on the Braves and he would tell one of his outfielders to stand like in a certain spot, and then the ball would be hit like right to that guy.
Yep.
I almost feel like Shota has a little bit of that in him. I mean, coming over here, his nickname was like the throwing philosopher, right?
I think it's something like that. Yeah.
He's been great on, you know, getting by as a fly ball pitcher. You know, I hope that going forward he will learn to try and pitch a little down in the zone, because as we stated, you know, good at least middle infield behind him. And you know, the opponents are only going to get harder from here on out with facing the Rockies his first go round. But overall, like, you know, Shota in his debut could not have done much better, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think that's what we talked about, is that, you know, you were kind of saying like, this is our number 2 starter. Like, he's the guy that, you know, will be behind Justin Steele. My thing with him was like, you know, we know he's a fly ball pitcher. That was the knock on him, is that he does give up the long ball. So there is a little bit of concern there that we know on those really windy days. And I want to say the wind blows in at Wrigley more than it blows out, but you know, it's still, I think like it's the concern giving up the long ball. I think the good thing that we saw is that he doesn't necessarily walk a ton of people.
Sure. Yes. First, what was the stat? First ever pitcher in his major league debut to record 6 innings, 9+ strikeouts, and no walks for any Cubs pitcher in their major league debut. Yeah.
And he had 20 swing and misses from that Rockies team, which again, that team strikes out a lot too. So it's, you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt, because the Rockies do strike out a lot, but he did have some good, I mean, swing and miss stuff. I mean, that splitter was just unbelievably filthy.
I just want to get to this comment from Dougie right here. Does he prefer FanDuel or DraftKings? It's only his interpreter that we need to worry about with that. Okay. We don't know that the players are doing that, Dougie. Surprised you didn't boo him when he was at a Hawks game too. or maybe he might have been the guy you were booing.
They're still busy booing Javier Baez like it's 2015.
Right, exactly.
They forgot what year it is, and they forgot that he doesn't play for the Cubs anymore.
Well, arguably a more important rival to them. Should have been booing him all, you know, not when he was at the Cubs, now that he's a Tiger. Yes. Yeah,
but you're booing Javier Baez. He's batting like 0-21 or something like that, right? Like, I don't even know if he even has a hit yet. He's looked terrible in spring. I don't even think he got the ball in play in spring.
He did get a hit in the opening day game against the White Sox. Yeah.
But either way, I mean, it's not like he's been some Sox killer either. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, yeah, but I mean, you got to see a great win. It was great to see Shota play really well. I think one of the other things I wanted to call out from that game, which I was really excited to see, was Cody Bellinger. You know, we saw it over like the full week now that, you know, everybody was talking about the advanced metrics, like, you know, the putting the ball in play, the hard hit rate, and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But he was still two strikes, 2 outs, came through, right? He had a couple RBIs yesterday to tack on some runs where, you know, just putting the ball in play just kind of looked like the Cody Bellinger from last year, which was really encouraging to see, because I think like when he signed that contract, I think he expected a longer and bigger contract than what he got. And I think like what he was hoping, or maybe what his thinking was, like the lack of home runs is what really crushed him, right? So like when that happens, you almost kind of see a player go too far to the other side where they're like not worried about putting the ball in play and they're just trying to get the ball over the fence. So I think so far his approach has been encouraging and exciting to me, because that's the player we saw last year. That was the top 10 MVP Cody Bellinger that we saw last year. So I thought that was great. I thought I was really excited to see that.
For certain. And we've talked about this a bunch before, that like in the year that he was really good with the Dodgers, his average exit velocity was lower than the years where he started to fall off with the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. And everyone was kind of panicking about how badly his, exit velocity had been, had fallen off, last year compared to 2022. Maybe that's just what works for him, And it could also, like I said, it could also be a factor of the fact that he can't, teams were shifting on him a lot in years past. Yeah. That's not the case anymore. He's going to be a guy that is going to get a lot of line drive hits, and obviously the power will show up, but I can appreciate the fact that he doesn't have the approach to just go up there and try and swing away for home runs in an environment like yesterday's game was, and as April at Wrigley usually is. He's just taken what the other team is willing to give him.
Yep. Yeah, so I mean, it was really encouraging to see that. And I know there's another guy that we wanted to talk about as well. Tell us about your shirt first.
Yes. Whiskers Morel, baby. Get yours. Chicago Sports Bums. .bigcartel.com. Go to the Cubs section of it, and also check out their other shirts too. I got another great one too. The Bums and Bourbon as a play on Guns N' Roses shirt. Thank you, HBIC. It is a sexy ass shirt, and thank you to our guy Johnny for designing it. But yeah, Christopher Morel. I mean, he's almost been like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde a little bit. Amazing at the plate to start the season. Amazing.
Red hot.
Huge home run against the Rangers in Game 3.
Yep.
Has the Little League home run yesterday, which me and Tony and a bunch of other people could not stop roasting Nolan Jones for out in the left field bleachers, calling him tight pants. We had a good time giving him the business out there. But already on the other side of the ball, already 2 errors, both at third base. Look, it's a work in progress for him, and it's not going to be a place where he's going to be the entire year, because I think we all project Matt Shaw to be up at some point this season. That's likely not going to be until sometime after the All-Star break, I would probably think. But yeah, you want to see better performance. You want to see him get better at his footwork and making the right throws. And he had a ball deflect off his glove yesterday, which honestly I thought might have been a hit. Like I said, like I just assumed it was a hit until I saw on the scoreboard that Shota had a no-hitter going. I hope that when they made the firings that they did after firing David Ross and bringing in Craig Counsell, that whichever coach worked with Nick Madrigal at third base when they put him there last year, I hope that same coach is working with Christopher Morel every single day, because there's a lot to be desired, and Morel is a guy that I almost kind of fear that if you take him out of the field and you make him a full-time DH, it will affect him at the plate. We've seen it before, like very notably with Adam Dunn on the White Sox. Like, he had spent his whole career in the National League before there was a DH, and he had been playing left field and first base and not looking particularly great in either spot, but was, perennially a guy that would hit 40 home runs, a lot against the Cubs, would draw a lot of walks, would strike out a lot, but hit for a somewhat decent average. And then the first year he gets to the White Sox, his numbers take a dive. I fear that, especially a guy like Morel, who is as versatile as he is, who is energetic as he is, he needs to be out in the field every single day for him to keep up
Yeah.
his his dominance at the plate, as we've seen early in the season so far.
Yeah, I mean, he's an electric player. That bat, and I think the Cubs recognize that. Council recognizes that he's got an electric bat. He needs to be in the lineup every day, and by all accounts, it sounds like he's going to get the runway to play there. Almost every day. If he's in the lineup, and I know you
Not there
said
tonight though. He's a DH tonight. Madrigal at
the
third.
DH tonight. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know they're going to do the matchup thing and everything like that. And you mentioned, like, is he going to work with the same coaches that he worked with last year? So he worked with Andy Green last year, who, as you know, is no longer with the team. But he also worked with Jonathan Moda.
Okay.
More of like the intricacies of playing third base. So Moda's still there. So I think hopefully that's a good sign that he's going to continue to get that coaching and development, from Moda. But I think it is going to be a work in progress, like you said, and we're going to see some games where he's probably going to make some really spectacular plays because he's just so athletic and, he's just flashy. He kind of reminds you of that Javier Baez guy who, when the bat is hot, when the crowd's behind him, when it's summer, like he's going to show out. Like he's that kind of athlete, right? He almost has like a little bit of that superstar quality that, just performs in big moments. But I think the thing that we saw the other side is he's hitting all 4 games that he's played in.
Right.
He's had 3 multi-hit games. He's batting .412 right now. He's got 7 hits with a home run and 3 ribbies. I mean, his bat is electric, and he's off to a hot start again. And we've seen this. He's been a streaky hitter. We know that there are going to be moments where, man, he's going to have some weeks where it's going to be a little rough and sticky. And I think that's where they have the infield depth that they can afford to sit him and kind of rest him and let him recoup and everything like that. But man, he's off to a great start in the bat. And like, I know the
Definitely.
2 errors suck, but you got to keep him in there. I mean, he's producing.
Right. For me, I mean, you mentioned Javier Baez. He almost reminds me of a different Cub shortstop from not long ago, and Starlin Castro a little bit, in that like he will expand his strike zone a lot, but will make contact and hit them far with a lot of pitches out of the zone. But we saw it with Starlin in the field, especially early in his career. He will almost, it was weird. He would like struggle a lot with the routine plays and then would make like the most spectacular play you'd ever seen on the very difficult ones. And when Starlin was finally, for the first time in his career, given a manager here that really knows what the hell he's doing on defense, when Joe Madden moved him over to second base, he excelled there. I don't know that there's room for Morel to play second base here because we have a hell of a second baseman in Nico Horner right now.
Yeah.
But I have faith that, under a manager that has always had really good defensive teams, that he'll find a way to make it work with Christopher Morel. And again, 100%. even if he's not your everyday third baseman, he's still a very versatile guy. He can play out all 3 outfield spots. He can give, Nico or Dan, well, probably more so Nico. You wouldn't want him at short. If he needs a day off, you can slide him over to second. I'll live with it for now because none of the defensive miscues he's had have really cost the Cubs yet.
Well, also, who's the better option anyway, right? I mean, that's the other side of it too. Is like
exactly,
even if you take him out playing third base, who you put in Patrick Wisdom there, I don't really love that. You put in Magical there, don't really love that. So I mean, it's not like they really have a clear upgrade outside of Christopher Morel playing anyway. So you kind of have to almost just by default keep the guy out there because who's better? Because I mean, the bat is just great alone. So you're just going to have to kind of deal with it. So I think it is what it is right now.
Basically, what you got to weigh is, what do you think is going to cost you more? Nick Madrigal being an automatic out, or Christopher Morel struggling, early in his career as a third baseman? I think we have more faith in Morel improving on defense than we do in Madrigal getting better as a hitter at this point in his career. So keep throwing him out there. Hopefully he doesn't cost you anything defensively. Hopefully his bat makes up for it.
Yeah.
Roll with the punches.
It looks like we're about to get first pitch right now too. We got Bologna Asada on the mound, so
Yeah.
big
Peter
Max
Peter Fon
Javier.
Peter Fonseca on the mound, looking real nice.
Hey, man, it looks empty there. I know it's cold out there. It's like what 40
Mhm.
degrees, chilly,
Hey,
rainy.
hey,
He already gave up a hit already.
newest edition, bunt down the line.
Yep.
Whatever. He didn't even have a play on it. Whatever. They'll figure a way out of this. No, you mentioned, what it looks like at Wrigley right now with a very sparse crowd. Tomorrow
Uh-huh.
night, newest edition of the Bums, Aaron and I will be going. We'll be out in the left field bleachers.
Oh, nice. Okay.
She, for those who don't know, grew up in Wyoming, so her national league team is the Rockies. So, little rivalry between
That's
her and
true.
I out
Yeah,
there.
that's
Yep.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. If you don't follow her, 630 Whiskey on Instagram.
Yep.
I believe, and I believe X too, right?
No, on X, she's just her first and last
Aaron.
name.
Okay.
An underscore to fries.
Okay.
She does great work for our TikTok, our Instagram. So give her a follow. She's a great addition to the Bums.
Yeah, 100%. All right. So let's jump into our flying the W's and taking the L's.
Hello? You play to win the game.
Addison is next. Doors open on the left at Addison.
I say one thing. Go. Let's go. That's a W. That's E1. That's E1. That's a W.
Is a L7 weenie.
L7 weenie.
L7 weenie.
Yeah, so that Jameson Winston, it gets me every time. It's the corniest dude. I think the only dude that's cornier than him in sports is probably like Russell Wilson. I mean, if those guys played on this, like if they played on the same team, Jesus. I mean,
hey, now on the same team with Justin Fields, though. I mean, Steelers. Yeah. Steelers are kind of scraping it by at quarterback. Hopefully Julie Fonseca is not listening to this and hearing us talk this way. But so for my first W, it's going to be a guy that I fear is going to be really annoying for the Cubs going forward because he's now in our division. But Rhys Hoskins of the Brewers being an absolute menace to the Mets this year, former, had spent his whole career with the Phillies, had been a longtime Mets killer. I believe a couple years ago, hit a home run after like getting hit by a pitch earlier in the season and just like taking his sweet ass time around the bases.
Double play.
Oh, we got the double play okay. There we go, Assad. Nice. Please don't report us to anything or marquee or anything. Please don't sue us. But yeah, Rhys Hoskins, giving it back to the Mets, and then having them throw at him. The Mets are a mess at this point, honestly. Like,
yeah, well, we knew they were going to take a step back this year. I think they blew their load. They spent a ton of money. They had to take some steps backwards. I think Pete Alonso looks like he's destined for free agency. So maybe they get something from him, for him at the trade deadline. So we'll have to see there. But yeah, I mean, I did not love that signing when it happened because I was a big Rhys Hoskins guy. I wanted the Cubs to sign Hoskins to play first base because I think that's, we talked about it, not correctly filling third base, first base, or DH. I think are three positions that the Cubs are really going to regret when we get to mid-year. I could be wrong, but those are the three that I'm really concerned about right now that they just didn't do enough to upgrade.
Hey, your concerns are valid. I mean, other than Morel at the plate so far, not a lot of production from any of those spots. So
yeah, and again, it's early, it's April, it's fucking cold. I don't even want to be out there right now, so I can't even imagine the players who make millions doing it. Right,
exactly.
All right, so my W, I kept it really simple, man. The fans on opening day, the fans they get the W because they got to see a W and they got to see Shota. Just watching Shota and the Cubs get out of the inning. So inning over, bottom of the half. We've got looks like Horner, Suzuki, and Bellinger are. So is Happ Hap got a day off today? I don't know if I missed that.
No, he's in there. He's getting lower in the lineup though, hitting 6th, which
Okay. I don't like that.
Could be based on pitching matchup or something like that.
Yeah, maybe it's lefty righty stuff.
Yeah, not that you really need to. It's the Rockies, but that is one big concern though, because Ian Happ over the course of his career has been better against righties as a lefty than the other way around.
All right, but yeah, Cubs fans, they got to see the W. They got to see Shota with a no going into the 6th and his first start. It looked like a ton of fun. I mean, I was jacked up, pumping my fist, just listening to it, and
definitely,
yeah, great game. So,
this is, we'll say, a half W and a half L, and it has to do with what you just said, because there was a certain Cubs fan that wound up on the marquee broadcast talking about myself here.
Yeah, I
holding
saw
up
that.
the cup snake, but looking very disheveled and very just. I look like I'm stumbling out of Sluggers at like 2 a.m. there. I got my guy Tony looking down, seeing if he's checking his zipper there. But
Jesus.
Look, as bad as that is, I am very much looking forward to making that into like a Twitter meme to post like anytime. Hopefully not a lot, but if the Cubs lose, or if there's a roster move I'm not a fan of, or a lineup decision I might not like, or maybe just the Cubs Twitter makes a really corny tweet as they're wont to do. So we'll say half W, half L on that one from Marquis and myself for getting on TV there.
Yeah, I mean, you made the grave mistake of like sending me this, because I'm gonna meme the shit out of this. Like it is, I'm gonna meme this so much. What did I already did? I think I already posted today. I said on on our Instagram, Bums in the Bleacher, and I know the Chicago Spurs Bums reposted it. The look of someone who knows the defense will not be as consistent as last year, and that's. I'm just keeping it simple in baseball terms. So wait until we get some like real shit where I'm just. That's I mean that's the meme I'm using for everything now. Like that's the image I'm using for when things go wrong.
Yeah,
that's it.
Listen, that's fair game. That's absolutely. I will say a full L that I had. I'm going to go to Cubs game operations department on this, like their game presentation. I don't know if you saw when they were doing player introductions, but they had these like pyrotechnics as players were coming out of the dugout, and there were 4 of these little squares where, Nico Horner draws a walk. Good eye. There we go. There were these 4, boxes where like, sparkles and flames were shooting out of. Half of them weren't working. One of the media members wound up tweeting a video of it with it failing the entire time. And then this was less popular on Twitter, but later in the day when they won and they had, the lyrics to Go Cubs Go on the scoreboard and like, the Cubs win graphic on the video board, it still said 2023. They didn't update it to say 2024 yet.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ.
Freaking, is Tom Ricketts being cheap on that side of the ball too, on the business
100%.
department? Because
100%.
Please.
Which I'm glad you brought that up, because my L kind of goes into play with that. My L goes to the Marquee Network and just the Cubs organization in general.
Oh.
So to me, this was like the whole Marquee thing was supposed to, it was supposed to bring and generate some more money. All right, Suzuki, 2-run bomb.
Let's go.
Love seeing that.
Stay Yabo.
Yeah, so to me, it's like this organization was supposed to start bringing in some more money and starting bringing more capital and profit with Marquee Sports Network. It really hasn't to this point where they're having conversations right now, like they have to defend themselves why they didn't go out and sign a Jordan Montgomery, or why they didn't go out and sign a Blake Snell, even at 1-year deals or 2-year deals, right? Like they're saying basically they don't want to go into this threshold because the profits aren't there for them to do it. And they may do it if they're winning mid-year, but it's like, again, man, like I don't give a shit. Like you're the Cubs, you're from Chicago, you're a big market team. I don't want to hear your financial problems, because they're not financial problems. you're not profiting as much as you would like, doesn't mean that you're not profiting. So
you know what we probably need to do when it comes to moments like this, where later in the year, if it becomes obvious where, you know, one of the cheap options that the Cubs turn to for this season, you know, cost them a game or something like this. We should go back and screen cap what Mr. You know, Aloha Mr. Hand was talking about with the Cubs and Sox both being a big market, and just play that right then and there over that clip when discussing it, because, you know, you're spot on when you're saying it right now, and he was spot on then as well. But yeah, you know, I'll tell you, I was so hyped when I heard about the Marquee Network launching and the Cubs getting their own network.
Yep.
I was someone who, as a kid, like way preferred when the Cubs were on NBC Sports Chicago as opposed to WGN. That may sound sacrilege because the Cubs and WGN had been tied at the hip for so many years, but
I love WGN.
yeah, I got a special place in my heart for them too. But when they were on like Comcast Sportsnet, it felt like you were actually watching like a real sports broadcast with like a real pregame and postgame show, as opposed to, you know, something that's alternate programming to the rest of the network. And I was hyped that, you know, now the Cubs have something where it's all them all the time, and they can control everything they put on there. They can make all the money off of those ads, off of every single thing that goes on there. And here we are, you know,
crying poor.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not crying as poor as we were in years past. There aren't as many biblical losses, as Tom Ricketts likes to say.
To me, it's the same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sorry that your what is it, $3 or $4 billion organization is maybe only performing at 3.99 billion. Like, I'm sorry. I feel terrible for you. Just over it, man. But all right, those are my WNLs. Did you have anybody else?
That's all I had. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let's jump into this coming week, right? We've got the showdown with the Dodgers. We get to see Shohei Ohtani for the first time play at Wrigley Field, I believe, ever, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
I don't think he's ever played at Wrigley Field. So that's going to be kind of exciting to see the big gambler.
Yeah, the big gambler. You know, hopefully he's not spending too much time inside the DraftKings sports book attached to Wrigley there.
I know, got it.
Got
it right there.
It is close to the visiting clubhouse, so, you know, you keep your eyes on him when you're in there. Cubs security, please.
It's like why we have to close all, like, you know, massage parlors in Chicago when Watson and the Browns come in town, right?
Exactly.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, so diving into it, Friday, we got Kyle Hendricks on the bump. Do we know the pitching matchups for? I actually should have had this pulled up, but let me.
I don't know who's.
Quick.
I think Hendricks, you said, is going.
He's slated to go Friday.
Oh, great. That's if we don't have another rain out or snow out or anything, right? So.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So tomorrow we don't even know who's pitching.
Yeah, tomorrow it might be Johnny Holstaff.
I don't see anybody slated, to be honest. I don't see anybody slated.
So nobody listed. But what we could do was just go off of who would line up to pitch there. So, you know, at game 3 against the Rangers was Jordan Wicks, and then yesterday was Shota Imanaga. Definitely,
they've had some days off, so
yeah, maybe might, you know, try to squeeze in.
Looks like Bobby Miller for the Dodgers. Bobby Miller.
Oh man, I remember that guy shoved against the Cardinals. That was a Saturday night game, I believe.
He had a really good start to the year. He went 6 innings, 11 strikeouts. I think he might have had 1 walk, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, he didn't give up much. But
if that's who's slated to pitch on Friday,
he had a good year last year too. I mean, he had a 3.76 ERA, so I mean, he was a pretty good player.
Yeah.
So
Dodgers keep churning out talent.
I'm just hoping it's like warmer weather. Like, I think it's supposed to be 47 on Friday.
Let me double check that. Friday high of 45. Game time temperature, yeah, like mid 40s, 43 degrees at first pitch.
Okay.
But will be sunny, won't be out, without any sort of sunlight. I think we are actually under in the 200 section.
Oh God. Okay.
I got those tickets for free, so I'm not going to complain about it, but
I'll see how long I can last, man, because I'm a little, I'm about 10 years your senior, so
for sure. Well,
my bones don't last in the cold as long as yours anymore. I'm a big baby.
I totally understand that. If we have to, maybe some people might not be able to get off work. Maybe move up,
just move around.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
If it looks anything like it does tonight, I think we'll be all right. It's a Friday, it's a day game, so maybe, yeah.
Right.
Chris Bryant got hit by a pitch right now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. On the elbow pad. When you said that, I thought for a second that might be an injury that puts him.
Oh, he'll be out for the next 6 months. Don't worry.
I hope not. I like KB.
It's fragile, man. It's just so disappointing. I mean, now that we talk about it, it's so sad to see like the fall from grace that Chris Bryant had from like rookie of the highly touted, minor league player of the year, rookie of the year, MVP, and then just
World Series champion.
World Series champ, cannot stay on the field to save his life. I mean, he's played like 60 games over the last 2 years or something like that. Or is it more than that? I don't even know.
I think,
or was it 60 games last year and then maybe
60 games last year? I think he's played like a shade over 100 games total with the Rockies in his 2 years.
In 2 years is pretty rough considering that was like what, $126 million investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oof. And they're on the hook for 4 more years?
He got his payday.
He definitely did, but I mean, it sucks for Colorado. Good for him, but
right.
And I just heard that he's actually him and his wife have churned out their 4th child.
Well, I know wait,
got 4 kids.
I know one time when they were expecting was twins. If
okay.
They had
there you go. That makes sense.
If they had another one since then, that's news to me.
They have another one either right now they just had or they're about to have. So
gotcha.
Yeah, he's about to either has or about to have his 4th child, which is
congrats to him.
Yeah.
Colorado's a good place to raise a family, but hopefully, hopefully despite his poor performance there, that him and his family are being treated well out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
are there Rockies fans?
I'm so disappointed.
I don't even know if that's a thing.
I got a cousin that lives in Denver, and there are a lot of people who go to those games, but it's very similar to like the Wrigley rooftop experience where you're mostly just going there to drink and eat and hang around with your friends more than watch the game.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. So predictions for, before we sign off, predictions for the rest of this week. They're right now up 2-0 on the Rockies. They got one more with Colorado tomorrow. And then they have an off day. And then they've got 3 with the Dodgers over the weekend. So what do you got? What do you think how they finish against the Rockies first?
I'm feeling great about this Rockies series. They have mostly been lifeless. I think they win tonight. They sweep them tomorrow.
Okay.
But then going into this weekend is going to be tough. I think it's more than likely going to be Dodgers winning 2 out of 3, probably winning the first 2, and then Shota shoves on Sunday against him.
When is what's his name?
Their big spending.
Yamamoto.
Their big spending. Yeah, Yamamoto.
Yeah, when does Yamamoto pitch? I don't even know.
That is a good question. It's hard to tell with them because they played those 2 games against the Padres, and I don't know if they screwed around with their rotation at all between then and now.
They haven't announced any pitchers outside of Bobby Miller on Friday, so I mean, it'll be interesting to see. That would be I think for baseball, it would be very smart to start him on Sunday against Shota. So you've got
sorry, go ahead.
Are they playing Sunday night baseball? I don't even know if they're on Sunday night baseball.
So I was just going to bring this up. I was talking.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a 1:20 start. Me and one of my buddies were talking about this earlier in the day that we were surprised that wasn't
what a
going
huge
to be,
miss.
Well, it is a somewhat worthy matchup because it's going to be Rangers Astros on Sunday Night Baseball. So repeat of last year's ALCS, pretty big rivalry.
But I
But
mean, you've got, especially if Yamamoto pitches on Sunday against Shota, and then you have Otani and Suzuki in the lineup. I mean, think about Jesus. I mean, that the marketing for that, like all of Japan is watching that game, right? You've got four of the biggest Japanese stars playing in the same game on Sunday Night Baseball
yeah,
with two of the biggest franchises. I mean, that feels like a huge miss on baseball. I know it's MLB TV's game of the week, but man, that feels like a huge miss in my opinion.
so Shota, he started the. Let me just double check here. Yes, he started the
Started yesterday.
Saturday game against the Cardinals. So that would put him in
Yamamoto.
line. Or I'm sorry, yes, Yamamoto. I'm getting my pitchers mixed up here from
Yeah.
the land of the rising sun. So that would put him in. So Saturday, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I think we might see him on Friday.
Ugh.
Yeah.
All right.
1, 2. Well, hey, you know what? Look, if we're gonna face him, we might as well have him matched up against who is now the worst pitcher on the Cubs, and Hendricks. So that at
MLB needs
least
to
we're
work
not
in. Yeah, I feel like MLB needs to work in some like flex games here.
right.
And maybe they couldn't because now that I look at it, the schedule, like the Cubs have to fly out and play San Diego on Monday.
Ooh,
So maybe
yeah.
a travel day. So maybe that makes sense. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. But even like when you're making the schedule, like, I mean, they should have known you got
For
a lot of
sure.
Japanese stars on that team. And whether they're playing or not, you still have Otani and Suzuki. And
Mhm.
then maybe you get lucky and one of those pitchers plays. But, I
Well,
think it's still.
they set the schedule like in the middle of the season, but they don't have the times established
Right.
yet. That's something they should have factored in,
Yeah.
was maybe put like have that Monday should have been an off day for the Cubs, and then have them start that series
Yeah.
in San
Or
Diego.
that should be like, if it's a day game, it should still be like a Fox game or something like that, right? Like,
Well, that's going to be the case on Saturday. Saturday is going to be FS1 broadcast.
okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. That's fine then. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it was great chatting with you. We got to figure out our schedule for this week. I've got some traveling coming up for work. I'm actually
sure.
going to be in enemy territory in a couple weeks. So
Which enemy
next
territory?
week, next week I'll actually be in Omaha and Iowa. So I'll be visiting, for work for about 3 days. So hopefully we could shoot on Monday because I got to go Tuesday through Thursday. Following week, I think I'm going to be in Redbird County. So we'll see.
Damn. Can't even get it. At least if you were in Milwaukee, you could get some good beer around there, but not exactly the case down there.
Yeah. And following week too, we got to figure out a schedule. I'll be in Kentucky in a couple weeks too, doing some whiskey barrel picks, which is going to be super exciting.
Nice.
So,
there we go.
yeah. I'm flying in, flying out just one day, but should be a lot of fun.
There you go. That's your natural habitat right there. Get some.
Well, Friday will be. That's like, that's church, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wrigley.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, the other side of it, right? So,
yep.
I'll be sure to share some videos and, maybe we'll talk about it on the cast, just my experience and everything
Absolutely.
like that.
Well, not now that we say that. Got your Instagram right there, _the_dram_daddy_.
Yep.
So for anyone interested in following John's travels and his whiskey experiences, be sure to follow him there.
Thank you. All right, y'all. Well, we appreciate everyone joining in. It's been a blast. Right now, it is 2-0 Cubs. There are guys on the corners for the Rockies, couple out. So Javier Assad gave up 2 hits to start the inning, and right now has a 2-0 count with 2 outs. So we will see how they finish. But like you said, you're calling a sweep. I'm hoping you're right. I kind of tend to lean on that side that they should sweep the Rockies right now, and I do think that they probably will lose 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers, but Dodgers they're freaking stacked, man. And I don't think we talked about it, but the Cubs, I believe, have the hardest schedule in the National League to start out the year in the first month or two.
Yeah, month of April is tough. I mean, because Dodgers, it started with the Rangers, easy one right now, but No, foul ball landed in the stands. But yeah, started with the Rangers, got the Dodgers, got the Padres, got the Mariners, got
Gotta go
the
to Seattle.
Marlins. Yeah, got the Astros.
No, Diamondbacks. They got the Diamondbacks in
Well,
Arizona.
I wasn't sure the exact order, but I know there's a
and
lot
then
of
the Marlins. Yeah,
contenders or a lot of teams that from last year were either in the playoffs or close to the playoffs.
Marlins look like shit this year so far, so I think they
That's
should
true.
hopefully be okay there. It looks like the Cubs got out of the inning. So inning over, 2-0 Cubs, going to the bottom of the second.
All righty. And with that,
All right. Appreciate it, Praz. Always love chatting.
absolutely.
All right, everybody.
See you
Have a good
soon.
night. Go Cubs. Fly that
Go
W,
Cubs.
baby.
Have a nice night.